What's up, Trash Talkers? Here at Veteran Trash Talk, we actually vet our sponsors. We don't just take their money and run like a Butter Bar lieutenant lost on the land nav course. Are you finally ready to plant your flag and claim your territory? Maybe it's time to use that VA loan to buy a home. Or hell, maybe you're looking to refinance and put some extra cash in your pocket for more questionable life decisions. Either way, the Veterans Mortgage Source, powered by Canopy Mortgage, has your six. Look, buying a home or refinancing can feel like getting overrun on a bad op. Chaotic, confusing, and full of obstacles that make no damn sense. That's where Corry and his team come in. They're like the QRF of home loans, ready to pull you out of the chaos and guide you to the best program for you. And trust me, they'll answer all your questions. Yeah, even the dumb ones. Whether you're a salty vet or fresh out of barracks still trying to figure out where your TA-50 went. Great service, solid rates, and a team that actually understands the military life. That's why all of us here at Veteran Trash Talk trust them to do right by every veteran in their family. Ready to lock it in? Give Corry a call or shoot him a text at 808-699-7874. That's 808-699-7874. Don't wait. Unless you like overpaying and getting treated like an FNG. The Veterans Mortgage Source is powered by Canopy Mortgage, LLC. All loans are subject to credit and property approval.
All right. What's up, Trash Talkers? What's up, Gruntworks Nation? We are live with your special, the sponsors promo. And as Wayne's World would say, this is our sponsor. And seeing as he pays us, he can pretty much say whatever he wants. So we brought him on. Corry, how you doing, buddy? How's it been?
Oh, doing good. Trent, when's the last time we talked? Christmas time? I think we jumped on.
New Year.
Right before the New Year.
Yeah.
Good to be back. New Year's off to a fast start. So business is booming, hopefully, for everybody. And I hope everybody's out there getting their new year off to a good start.
Yeah, that's great. No, hey, those of you tuning in, we had this we had the event created and had pretty good response to it. So if you've clicked interested and you remembered and it reminded you and you just clicked on watching, we are giving you, well, Corry's going to give you VA loan advice, the myths that come with a VA loan and what it's shaping up to look like for 2025. And again, we said, and I got to give a shout out to Justin, who did the advertisement for you, that clip. So those of you who have ever followed a combat veteran, Justin and Drew had their little split. I think they're still friends, but Drew went and did his stand-up comedy routine, and Justin's been doing those funny little futuristic cartoons about what's going on today in the military, and they're pretty funny that he puts on Gruntworks. Triggers a lot of the uber right-wingers because they're not picking up on his sarcasm. So it is pretty funny. It's like, do these guys really argue about DEI? And then like all kinds of, like, it's just funny. But no, big shout out to him. That advertisement's great. We got Linda in the chat saying hi, and Clifton saying Laurel Libby for governor. Okay, Clifton, appreciate you. Give the shout out. But yeah, tell us again, for the people watching for the first time, give it, an introduction, and what you got going on and why you teamed up with us.
Yes, I'm Corry. I own the Veterans Mortgage Source and PCS to Paradise. We are a mortgage company, and a PCS to Paradise gives a lot of information for military moving families all over the country. I was an Army officer. You and I met a long time ago when I parked in your parking spot. I don't think we'll ever let that go down.
Yeah, I just had a broken back and then needed a knee replacement, but you earned it. You went to West Point.
Yeah, exactly. And not many. I mean, how many other officers were shown up to the office before you? None.
Right. That's just because you were in trouble.
So
yeah, no.
Just happened to kickstart that day. Kickstarted our friendship.
Yeah, it did for sure.
So, but no, we really specialize. We do all sorts of loans, but our mission and our goal and the reason we team up is educate and create financial readiness through the VA home loan benefit, which is truly a benefit. It's not something to use. It's a benefit you earn through service. And we want everyone out there to use it because we believe that, families and soldiers and veterans who are financially ready and sound will have happier lives, healthier lives, and less stress, which ultimately pairs perfectly with what you guys do, which is we're here to stop veteran suicide and make veteran lives better. And so I think it was a perfect partnership. Zach was doing it before, and it's really been it's been great. Like, we talk to veterans every day, and it's really nice seeing how we're changing lives little by little, right? It's not so much about I think where we come in, it's much more about the education. We always are education focused. We're not trying to sell you anything. But people, once they know and they understand the benefit and the educational, they understand what the VA loan is and the power that it brings to families, it sells itself.
Right. And it is something which we'll get into, like the myths of what these are. Because again, if you've used it and you know the benefit, then you're pretty much tracking it. And just misinformation or the wrong experience. Maybe you were told something and you're like, well, F that, I'm not going to do that. Or you get spam emails and spam texts, because I think rates are dropping right now, which we'll get into, because I'm getting texts like crazy. But we do have a question from the chat from Jen. She's one of our Gruntworks Nation peeps. And she says, I applied for a housing grant. Do you have any advice?
If it's a locality-based grant, most housing grants are going to be based on your specific county, state, even city, depending on what it is. My best advice with those would just be like, follow up on the people that are running that grant, and then try to find somebody, specific in your area. One of the things we do, like I'm based out of Hawaii. We do loans all over the country. But I had a client, for example, they were doing a very specialized Alabama first step program through the state, through the county. We sent it to somebody else on our team that is better at those loans. So I would say find a local expert. We can help you find one in the area. If it's not something that we're super familiar with, we'll find you somebody that's on our team that does specialize in those specific nitty-gritty locality-based programs. So there's a lot of locations and counties and states that have very specialized programs. I'd say my best advice is work with an expert who knows what those are and how they apply, because usually you have to board the loan through the state. There's a system internally with the government, and as anyone who's been in the military knows, dealing with the government is just not super fun. So you want somebody who knows how to navigate that thoroughly and understands the process.
Yeah, right. She said, thank you so much. I went on va.gov and applied for it. It's Utah, so I don't know if I've ever used it. Well, hey, Jen.
Hit us up. Shoot us a message after. Text me the number on there. And we can find it. Canopy Mortgage is based out of Utah. So I'm sure we've got people in the company that are very familiar with the grant you're trying to do.
Yeah, perfect. Jen, I hope we can help you. Let us know. Shoot VTT's Big Earl a message as well. Let us know how that's going. If you didn't get a chance to scan that QR code, we have it all. It's all great. I will talk to my longtime VSO. Yeah, just talk to us. We're essentially the best VSO, because we don't call ourselves one, but we're just a bunch of veterans that try to find the best thing for you.
Yeah.
So give me a message, shoot it out. Yeah. So let's get back. Great question, Jen. Appreciate it.
Thanks.
Let's get back to like what would stop me or make me hesitant to using a VA loan. Because I've had great success with them, so I don't have any objections. But like, what is a myth that you've heard, something recent or something for even?
So I've heard, I'd say myths I hear every day, and I get new ones every year. I just had one. They were having a rough time at Veterans United, and they were told that Veterans United was the only place that could do VA loans. So that any place
strategy.
Any place can do VA loans. The VA, a common misunderstanding, the VA doesn't lend the money. The VA guarantees private institutions who follow VA guidelines when they lend the money. So the VA guarantees the loans. They don't fund the loans. I've heard many times you can only use your VA loan once. So I'm saving it for, my final home or something. Not true. You can use your VA loan really infinite times if you buy, sell, buy, sell. There's some other ways you can do it, but buy, sell, buy, sell, buy, sell, buy, sell. You can do that a thousand times with your VA loan. You can have multiple VA loans at a time. If you have entitlement, you have enough entitlement on your loan, which is based on how the VA guarantees it. So in most of the country, that limit right now is $806,500. So if you had a loan for 400, you could get another one for approximately 406,000. It's not a perfect formula. There's a little bit more nuance to it, but in general, you can have multiple entitlements out at a time. There's no down payment required on the VA loan, but at the same time, there are closing costs. So I've heard there's no closing costs on a VA loan. Not true. There's closing costs on every loan. Even if you don't always pay them, they exist, right? You have to have an appraisal on a purchase. You have to have title insurance. You have to have some of these other, homeowners insurance. Those are closing costs. So there are closing costs on a VA loan. But oftentimes there are seller credits that pay for those. I've heard, limits on VA loans. So if you have full entitlement, meaning you don't have any outstanding VA loans or you've never used your VA loan before, there is no limit on it. It is based on what you income and credit qualify for. The limit now only applies if you have an outstanding VA loan, then you're subject to the remaining entitlement. So if your VA loan is free and clear, you've never used it, or you bought and sold, or you've refinanced or something, that VA loan you can use again with whatever you can income and credit qualify for. I've heard you can't use a VA loan to buy a multifamily home. Not true. You can buy
I have heard that.
You can buy up to a 4-unit property with a VA loan. So, which is honestly, we've got a guy, one of the guys that works on our team, his name's JD. He's a Navy veteran out of Chicago. They just put on a whole multifamily course. They really specialize in multifamily opportunities, which is an awesome way to put your VA loan to work. Buy a $1.2 million 4-family property, and the rent from the 3 units covers your entire mortgage, and you live for free in many cases because of how the value of a multifamily. So you can multifamily invest up to 4 units. Which is another big myth. And then even, we hear like, I don't have good enough credit for a VA loan. The credit standard, the VA technically has no published minimum credit score. I would tell you, you'll be hard pressed to get a loan below 580. It's kind of the cutoff, but it's not really the cutoff because there is no published minimum. I would say in general, if you have a 620 or better, you're going to get pretty much the best, like as good a rates as anybody on a VA loan, because there really isn't a credit standard. So that's another thing I hear of, oh, my credit score is not good enough, I can't buy a house. It's like, well, what's your credit score? Oh, it's 670. That's going to get you probably the top tier of VA rates, or close to, depending on the lender. They may have some credit score adjustments in there, but credit score is a big one we hear. And then just, I even hear like, you can only use the VA loan. I've heard it both ways. Once you're out of the military, or only if you're in the military, active duty. So either, I've heard it both. Oh, you can only use it while you're on active duty. You can only use it once you're not on active duty anymore. Pretty much once you've served 180 days on active duty, you can use your VA loan. And we've actually, I think last year we had one for a second lieutenant who we had to like schedule the closing date based on when her eligibility would kick in. Because she was only in Bullock and hadn't had enough time in service to hit the VA loan requirement. So 180 days on active duty, and you're going to be eligible for the VA loan.
Nice. Yeah. Here's another one that I heard recently working with you when we were looking for a place in El Paso by Fort Bliss, where can a realtor tell you, hey, this is the price of the home, you like it, you want it, but you got to use this loan specialist?
No, that's steering. Can't do it. They can make it where, a lot of times people want to have you qualify with certain individuals, and that really spun up out of, I would say, during COVID, when the refi boom happened. There was a ton of like call center type lenders who had no idea what they were doing, and they were just calling. But they can't make you work with anybody. So, I mean, we've seen that happen. I've seen that happen all the time, where they want you to use this person. They want you to qualify with this. It's actually illegal. It's called steering. And they can't make you do that. So you're welcome to use whoever you want.
Right. And then Laura Elizabeth chiming in here in the chat. I used the VA loan while active. Who's passing this bum ass scoop? Now that's the point, Laura. You're spot on. If you're just tuning in a little late, this is Corry. I'm the big Earl, and we met each other a long time ago. Corry is a loan expert and a trusted source of veteran trash talk and grunt works. And we always tell people, just message him. All right. He's going to give you the squared away answer. You probably knew what you were doing, or maybe just understood it better than most. But there are people who are scared to do things because of social media, because of the way a sergeant major says something, the way
and it's even, on Laura's point, like the VA specifically, the Veterans Administration, we go to these events put on by the VA, and 2 in 5 veterans doesn't know anything about the VA loan. Like, they know literally zero. Like, they don't even really know what it is. They've heard of it, or have like maybe heard of it. So it's a shocking number of veterans who don't know they're eligible for it. I did a loan for a guy last year who was in his 80s, who was a veteran who had served in Vietnam and had never used his VA loan before, ever, and was using it for the first time. So it's incredible, though, how just many people don't even really know the benefit. And especially right now, I mean, the challenges that come with housing, the VA loan, in my mind, is arguably one of the best reasons to enlist or join the military, for what it gets you on the back end, while you're either on active duty or once you're out. And you have that benefit for life. So that's another big thing with the VA loan. Once you earn it, you essentially have it for life. Assuming you have a good discharge and everything like that. There are some exceptions where they can take it away. Another, maybe a myth where, these are less common, and hope we never want to see veterans in this situation, but you can even use a VA loan again if you've had a foreclosure with a VA loan. Basically, your entitlement is taxed for the amount of money that you owe the VA, and but that essentially is treated as like you have 2 VA loans, and you can use that stuff again.
Yeah, Laura's coming at us pretty aggressive. I like it. She's like, well, 80 years old. They're a little bit behind us on the stream, so it'll take a second for them to hear.
Oh, got it.
Back to them.
Yeah, I mean, I think that was always one of my frustrations, and I always thought our unit was pretty good about it. But you see it and hear it all the time of like, oh, I need to live on base, or I have to, XYZ, like the thing to do in this unit is live on post or whatever. And one of my wish list items would be like more commands would encourage the use of the VA loan and building, helping soldiers build wealth and accrue real estate and investments, because I think that stuff is really lacking over there. And people kind of get, I feel like, a little bit forced into living on base or living in certain areas because that's kind of the thing to do in the unit.
Yeah. Well, Laura, I appreciate that. Yeah, you're definitely cut and dry, but we're on the same team here, right? We're getting that information for just the stats. This is a good one here from Kirk. Kirk, you definitely need to reach out to me and Corry. Give VTT's Big Earl a message, or just scan the QR codes on the bottom and message the expert Corry himself. Use my VA guarantee in 2016 to buy a home in Alabama. I wish I had done my homework better. I paid a $5,000 fee for using it. Also, because I foolishly put zero down, I got stuck paying for something called mortgage insurance.
Kirk, I'd be curious to look at it. Did you use the VA loan or a different loan program? Because the VA loan doesn't have any mortgage insurance. It does have the VA funding fee up front.
Hold on. See, Laura? Not everybody's smart as you. All right.
So I'd be happy to look at that, Kirk, and see. We could revisit that and look at it for you. Send us a message. VA loan doesn't have mortgage insurance. What they do have is what's called the VA funding fee, which is similar to what you would call like an upfront mortgage insurance on like an FHA loan. And that is what the VA uses to cover defaults on veterans. But there's no monthly mortgage insurance charge. So I wonder if they did an FHA loan for you, or maybe a USDA loan. A USDA loan is another zero down program put on by the U.S. Department of Agriculture. But they do have mortgage insurance and a funding fee as well. So Let's take a look at that, because you shouldn't be paying any mortgage insurance on a VA loan.
Interesting.
And another big myth too, kind of what maybe Kirk's talking about, is just because every place can do VA loans, the fees and what lenders charge is drastically different. So rates are not published by the VA. Rates are based on any business, right? It's based on their company's margins and their fees and whatever they want to charge. So like at the Veterans Mortgage Source, we don't charge any lender origination fees on our VA loans. Because that's just, we believe like we want to help veterans, and there's no need for us to charge veterans, because there's enough business on that to where we don't have to charge excess fees. Especially, we deal with a lot of people who are not necessarily the most financially savvy. And so one of the reasons I think places charge such high fees is because they can get away with it and people don't know any better. So I think that's one, Nick and I talk all the time. One of the things we really try to do is, work with vetted good people who we know are going to do right by every veteran they come across, even if they could get away with charging crazy fees and it's just not what we believe in, because we don't want our reputation to be like that.
Yeah, see, I was pre-approved through USAA and got strong-armed into using the realtor's lender. You got steered, homie. We just talked about it.
Yeah.
You got steered.
USAA, Navy Fed, veteran, they spend millions and millions of dollars to get that stuff to drive that. My first house I ever bought, I was pre-approved through USAA, and the fees were insane. And I talked to another, like my realtor's like, here's 3 other people you can talk to. And I was like, the rate was better. The fees were non-existent. I was like, it's just, they use that name. And I think USA is great for like car insurance and other stuff. They have some pretty good products, but
yeah, we don't want to get off on the USAA tangent. I got one complaint all the way up to the board. So it's like, come on, guys. But yeah, Kirk, hey, reach out to Corry, man. Reach out to him.
Look, Kirk, that's great. I love hearing that you're going to have your loan paid off early. Another myth, you can pay off your VA loan early. There's no prepayment penalty. So you can pay off your loan, a 30-year loan, in 2 weeks if you want. If you win the lottery, you want to pay your loan off the next day, you're welcome to do it.
Very nice. Yeah. What was the other thing we got? These are great questions and comments from the Gruntworks Nations chiming in a lot. So 2025, like when Is there like a number, like I was active Army 20 years living in housing. I thought they were giving me a break. Yeah, Kirk. Again, you're not alone, and that's what I was going to say before I steered this conversation another way. I've made mistakes with my money. I've made mistakes in thinking I knew about something, and then like, hey, you should have done this to save $5,000. And it's like, so you're not alone for doing that. Lots of people do it, but that's how we learn. But yeah, and this goes back to the point, where Lauren was yelling at us is, no, there's people that are on an Army base because guess what? Army housing's privatized. So they definitely put out a narrative that it's better for you to stay on base because they're getting money.
Yeah.
It's not like the Army's cutting you some slack. It's like, no, it's privatized. They definitely want you to. Let's see.
That's
here.
JD. JD is who I was talking about earlier.
Okay.
He loves talking shit about Navy and Army blew it this year in the football game. I've been living it every day since.
JD, if you're an enlisted guy, you're better off in the Army. We treat our enlisted guys way better than you do. So
JD's a Naval Academy guy. JD and his team. So JD runs our whole like Chicago Midwest area. And JD, if you have questions about multifamily, those guys do a ton of commercial. They have huge like 50 unit buildings they do stuff on. JD's really good at that stuff.
Nice. Yeah, well, I'll definitely give JD. Yeah,
they just put on a course over in Chicago. I think they had 35 people, veterans there talking about multifamily stuff. So we do all sorts of that. That's what we're super passionate about, is just, talking about just real estate investing in general. If we don't have it, we have connections that, we know we can get you to the right spot. Whether you're trying to build you're trying to buy 100-unit building, you're not going to use your VA loan, but we can give you some good advice on commercial loans and how to go about doing that.
Yeah, Kirk says, I wish you guys were around when I enlisted in 93. Yeah, I was 12, Kirk. I don't think Corry was even born yet.
I was born in 92. I was crawling around.
So perfect. Hey, but yeah, thanks for your service, Kirk, and thanks for commenting and putting this out there, because, again, there'll be people watching that maybe didn't want to say that. So thanks for doing that. It definitely helps some people out. Got to get JD on the show, I think, for like a trash talk hour, because this is veteran trash talk. And he says myth. He says myth that Navy treats their enlisted guys fine. No, they don't. Okay, so don't become one of these when I hit you with the truth. All right, JD. Like, the truth of the matter is, there is a proposition put up every year to pay sergeant majors at a nominal level more money. Right? It gets rejected by the Department of the Navy every time. Okay, so because why would we give them more money? They don't even get to eat on the same floor as us. Like, come on, get out of here. Yeah, I mean, we know that, like, we have right arm nights. The generals. Like, if you're a sergeant major with an Army general, you're drinking some scotch with them after work. And you're BSing. You probably go to barbecues. In the Navy, you got your own mess hall, bro. Like, I don't know. I mean, I'm okay with it. It's 2025. I could have went officer if I wanted to. Like, it is what it is. But yeah, JD, we'll have to get you on the show. But yeah, Linda, our weapons boom boom specialist, VTT's bang bang. I enlisted in 95. Yeah, you guys are old, right? I'd like to say I was old, but usually I'm the old guy. But all right, here we go. Megan's trying to get us back on track. Megan, the CEO of Everything Realtor, Quantum State Realty, and Hands Across America. Awesome organization that just launched. We had them on the show talking about it. She definitely carries all of Faceman. Faceman probably be living in a box on the side of a road if he didn't find Megan. So we appreciate that. Megan says, how does using the VA loan to buy land and build on it work? That's a good one, because I didn't think you could do that either when I was younger.
So the tricky thing with land and construction is the VA allows you to do a construction loan with no money down, and you can do it. The problem is that there's not really any banks that actually will do a construction loan because of the risk for no money down. So the best way to actually do like new construction with a VA loan is to try to get the builder or the developer to front the money, build the house themselves, and then you just buy it like any other house, a new construction house with your VA loan. That's really the best way to do it. You can do, I mean, technically you could do a VA loan and put 25% down, and they'd probably let you do it at a bank or something. But you'd still be paying the funding fee. So generally, new construction land purchases, you can't buy raw land with your VA loan, but you can if you're developing a home and a bank would allow it, because it has to be for a primary residence that you're going to be able to occupy. So it's a little bit tricky. I would say it's just, there's not really any banks or lenders out there that will do it, is the issue for no money down. But as far as new construction goes, I have seen plenty of people where, as long as the builder kind of fronts it, I just had a guy in Florida do this. He found even a small builder, they fronted the construction. His situation, he bought the land with a bank loan, a random land bank loan. He bought the land. The developer built the house with not a construction loan, so not a draw schedule, meaning you're giving the builder $50,000 at a time to build the house. And then once it was all done, he refinanced it, essentially purchased it all from the developer for us the price with his VA loan, and he paid off that land loan. So that's probably the best way to do it if you can afford, is buy the lot somehow, get a developer to build it, and then buy the whole thing with your VA loan is typically the best way to do it.
Nice. Yeah, that's a good one, because I thought you could. I didn't think you could at all. So I never, when I was younger, never even looked.
You can. It's just pretty nuanced, and you kind of have to try to work with it. The easiest way is get a builder to build it for you and then sell it to you, and then you just buy it like a regular house with your VA loan.
Ooh, you hear that, Megan? That's a business opportunity. I bet you that's something that's not out there. Like, get a builder who just does that.
Out there, they do a lot of good. We work with Megan all the time, and Megan and I alone, we fixed a lot of myths out there just in a short amount of time since I've known her.
Yeah,
helping veterans get squared away.
Nice, for sure. No, hey, thanks for that, Megan. And then JD's still trying to do his trash talk, but I don't think he's good at it.
Yeah,
I don't think he's good at it. I mean,
what else do you expect from Navy? I mean,
yeah, I mean, I don't even want to give it a response, but it does help the algorithm if we do. So, and we get shared more. So I will. Army dudes aren't allowed to just pitch a tent and call that a primary.
No,
yes, we are.
The VA does have some minimum standards for housing that they'll lend on. There are some pretty cool programs though going back a little bit to the land loan and construction. There's some pretty good VA renovation loans. So how those work essentially is, let's say there's a house with 4 walls, basically a structure. VA renovation loan allows you to do a regular no money down VA loan to bring that home to standard. So if you found a home with like 4 walls and a roof, you could finance in the repairs to make that home livable. And there are some programs that would allow a VA renovation.
Would they allow it for you to like just rip it down and rebuild it?
Technically, no. You have to renovate the property, but I mean, I'm not out there.
Keep the cornerstone of the building there.
I'm not out there watching the renovation happen, but basically the builder submits a draw schedule. That's kind of the loophole with VA building, VA construction, is if you find a shell that you like, you can renovate the whole property to bring it up to standard.
Yeah. Do you have to buy it?
Buy it. You can buy it as is. The renovation loan, so basically the way they do them is the appraisal, the property has to appraise after the renovations are complete at value. So basically they call it the ARV, the after renovation value. So if, let's say, a simpler example is a home has a good shell, but it has no flooring and it has no cabinets or whatever, you're financing in the flooring, the kitchen, a $40,000 renovation to bring that home to standard. As long as that home would appraise at acquisition price as is in its current condition, plus 40,000 in renovation costs, you can renovate that stuff in.
Yeah. Before Megan's third follow up with, can you just add a pool? Again, Kirk, scan that QR code. Send Corry a message, because I think he's about to change your life with what you're asking. I'm on my third property with the VA loan. All right, this is the third house that I live in. The one that I'm in now is the biggest financial decision I've ever made, and I used Corry. All right, I used Corry for that, and it went very, very well. So, yeah, click on that, Corry, because we talked about. I know you signed on a little late, but we talked about buying, multi-home properties. So,
Yeah.
investment, stuff like that. I'm pretty sure he can enlighten you. Now, Megan says, can you just add a pool?
Generally, no. Pools, or what are considered like luxury upgrades, are typically excluded. Pools pretty much explicitly. The VA renovation loan verbiage generally says to make the home safer, more livable, or handicap accessible is another reason, right? If you've got a, add-on renovations to do like a ramp where there's stairs and stuff like that, you can do that. Energy efficiency sort of falls in there too. If it's more like a energy efficient upgrade versus a luxury upgrade. So typically bringing a home to a normal living standard, not like luxury enhancements to a property. Pools, typically no. Like that's pretty much explicitly prohibited.
If you want to get back at the man, anybody listening here, there is a way to at least get your heater for the pool paid for. So if you go get yourself, if you're a disabled veteran, you go get yourself a warm water therapy referral, right? And you have a pool.
There you
can
go.
Now write your gas bill for heating your pool as a medical expense. Just saying, that's allowed. It's not even.
And so maybe, to Megan's question, there may be a way, if you have the right disability, handicap accessible write-up, that you could get the VA to allow. Like I'd probably call them and ask, is this permissible? If it was for like, guy needs a hot tub for his, his service connected disability built in, can we add this in the VA renovation and see?
You can't get, I know this one. Well, see, I say I know this one, but it could be a myth because I was just told by somebody in the VA, which they could have been wrong too. But they will not pay for your hot tub. However, with that warm water therapy, you will write that hot tub expense off on your taxes.
There you go.
So if you're making enough money where you're actually paying taxes, right? Remember, none of this applies to the tax write-offs if you're not paying taxes. So it's just,
right. They're not credits, they're deductions. So.
Yeah, exactly. Let's see here. VA is hugely helpful if you just call. Surprise. Oh, JD with a normal comment. Thanks for coming in.
The VA hotline, anybody can call. Now, specifically, again, like VA renovation generally prohibits pools. Landscaping's another one. You can't do a bunch of landscaping work. It generally applies to making the home livable, safe, handicap accessible.
Right. Now, I had a home improvement rejected by the VA, but it was almost like they were doing me a favor. And they were asking me, are you going to stay here in this house? I'm like, probably not. Then you can only use that home improvement for handicap accessibility one time. And it can go up a lot of money. It can go up to I think the 25,000 range. So they're like, hey, if you're not going to live here, don't do that. Wait till you go somewhere else and then do it. Let's see here. All right. We'll have to save some of these questions for our next month's show. We don't want to burn you all down. Can you buy a home with a VA loan with someone who isn't a spouse? How does that work if so?
Yep, you can. So you can buy, if it's a spouse and they're a non-veteran, so there's a couple things there. 2 veterans can buy a home and not generally not bring a down payment, assuming they have the entitlement. So Nick and I, if we're going to go live in the house together, we're buddies. We can go buy a house together with our VA loans.
That's how you guys made your money in Hawaii anyways.
Yeah. People did it.
Yeah.
Or like if you want to buy a home with your brother, who's not a veteran, what happens is you have to bring, the VA only covers your half of the guarantee. So basically the VA guarantees the loan for 25% loss. So you'll have to bring essentially half of that as a down payment for a non-veteran that's going on the loan with you. So you bring in a brother who's a non-veteran, you guys want to go buy a house together, you bring 12.5% down and you can use the VA loan on it.
Very nice.
Essentially what's happening is the VA is giving 12.5% coverage to the bank for the veterans half, and then you're bringing 12.5% down to give the bank for the other half, and you're at that 25% equity coverage. It's kind of how they view it. So
gotcha.
You can.
Yeah. The God came in the chat. This is kind of going to go to 2025. What's your, because I know rates are dropping right now.
Yeah, we've had a good little run from especially the highs of like January. I mean, we're probably down 0.5%. VA's in the low 6s right now. I mean, 6.25 is about, I'd say, where most people are sitting. If you wanted to pay a point, you can maybe get to like 5.99. 6.25, I say, like, if you don't want to pay any points or pay any fees, you probably can get a 6.25 about right now, give or take.
What's your assessment for the year? What do you think's going to happen? And then how long do you have to live in your house in a VA loan before you can refi?
So when you buy your home with a VA loan, you got to intend to live there and occupy it for a year. There are exceptions. If you get PCS orders 2 months later, obviously they're not going to hold you to that. To refi any government loan, but a VA loan in particular, you have to be, there's a seasoning requirement of 210 days from your first payment date. And it generally works out to you have to make 6 payments before you're eligible to refi. There's no way to refinance really before that. That's a government seasoning requirement. So
gotcha.
Whenever you buy your house or whenever your last refinance was, you got to make 6 full payments is the rule of thumb I give. That generally gets you to 210 days. But yeah, so hopefully it keeps going. I would say, I think it's going to really depend a lot on what happens with just inflation, unemployment, I think, and we'll see what happens, how the market, the reason the rates have gotten better in the last 2 weeks is market optimism with tax cuts, economic growth. You hear kind of what they talk about as far as one way you can reduce inflation is increasing productivity and reducing government spending. So if the economy is booming and government spending is down, that's typically good for prices and inflation. If the economy is in the dump and the government's printing money they don't have, that drives up rates, because the simple way to think about it is the government competes with consumers for debt acquisition.
Gotcha.
So when the government needs to borrow money, they're competing with you trying to get a mortgage and borrow money, which drives up the rates. So if government spending, I think the real reason we're seeing these drops is because of like Doge and some of the optimism of like government spending and government cuts in the budget. Because if government spending and borrowing drops off, there's less competition for debt. So rates can fall to absorb the debt, right? When there's an oversupply of debt out there, they drive up the rates because nobody wants to buy it unless they're getting paid a high enough interest rate. So I think really what we're seeing right now in the market is optimism about government spending and government debt.
Gotcha.
Is why we've seen this little dip from, high 6s to low 6s. I'd say we've swung about 0.5%. and I think we'll have to see how that shakes out. So if things stay on trajectory, I would say we should be able to at least get into the mid upper fives by the end of the year.
Nice.
If things, but who knows what's going to happen with just how this shakes out, how some of these bills shake out. But I would say that's really what we're seeing moving the needle right now is optimism around the government's not going to borrow so much, deficit spend, because that really, a good kind of way to measure how people measure interest rates, if you, in a very simplified form, if you look at the government 10-year treasury and you add 2 to 2.5% to that, that's about what mortgage rates are going to be. So if the 10-year treasury comes down 0.5%, mortgage rates are going to follow sort of in that same pattern. It's not as simple as that, and it's not exactly parallel, but it's a good sort of gauge. So if the 10-year comes down 1%, you would expect mortgage rates to do 0.5 to 1% as well in drop, just because there's a traditional spread of the 10-year versus the mortgage, which is about 2 to 3%. Depending on what that margin is, that spread is of the actual gap, but it follows the same trajectory, same general trend. So the other thing is, if you want to read about like what Scott Besson is doing at the Treasury, he's trying to be very careful with how he offloads and redoes the U.S. debt issuance of like, he's doing a lot of shorter term right now with the hope that rates drop and he'll start issuing longer term debt down the road at lower interest rates. This was the big criticism of the last Secretary of the Treasury. She did a bunch of short-term debt when rates were super low and during COVID. And they're like, why didn't the government go do a bunch of 10 years when rates were like 1.5%?
Right.
Because now they're paying like 5 times as much as that debt rolls over.
Yeah. Gotcha. No, thanks for that. And we went a little bit over time, but that's okay because we had a real active chat thread. Really appreciate that. But we're trying to get this stabilized with Corry and Veterans Mortgage Source to where we're doing it at the end of every month and talking about either how the month went or what we should be looking forward to in the next month.
Yeah.
And again, for everybody out there that's still that linear thinker when it comes to preventing veteran suicide and active first responder and active duty suicide, there's more than one reason and there's more than one way we can help. And Corry is a big, big help to us in our community, to where financial readiness and financial stability is a big reason to, be happy and a big reason to have things set in line to go do great things. So I appreciate everybody on the chat. And then if you're listening on the Spotify and Apple and all that stuff, and you can't see this, go to our website, veterantrashtalk.com, and all of Corry's information is on there as well. Or just come on Facebook and talk to us, and all those QR codes down there, and we'll play an ad at the end of this. Just call that number, text that number, or scan those QR codes. All right, Corry, last word before we shut it down.
You have questions, come talk to us. Whether you're thinking about buying a house tomorrow or 2 years from now, get the education now so you know the benefits, you know what it is. Like our mission always is education first, and just helping veterans understand what the benefits are of the VA loan. And I think it speaks for itself to set them up for success now and in the future.
All right, very awesome. And then so check us out on Friday and Saturday. Friday we got our fight show, which by the way, we made a lot of money for you last Friday if you paid attention to us. And
I should have been betting, which I need to follow that myself a little more.
Don't worry. Yeah, well, I mean, you pay for it, so
yeah.
You should
probably. You guys are hot.
So, no, and again, Vegas has big buildings for a reason, because we don't win every week. But when you have a week like you did last week, it kind of covers you for the next 4 months of gambling. So there you have that. And then our Trash Talk Hour, we got a Marine coming on. Great. And we'll have him on Saturday and talk about his upcoming events. All right, we'll see you guys on Friday.